So hopefully Illuminate is starting to keep up. I see a couple people saying that they're having some issues. If you would raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon if you're having that problem too, that'll help me keep an eye on who is having those issues and how pervasive they are. It could just be a local connection for some of the individuals. We're also looking at the way that other unique partnerships beyond the ones with military and nonprofits are working. And we've been building some applications for medical with groups like McGraw-Hill, which is a major U.S. publisher, and doing things like renal physiology and iPad-based applications for medical physiology. And we're trying to expand beyond just throwing the book up there, looking at ways that we can leverage high-yield information, meaning how do we have interactive calculators for things like dialysis? How do we build those things so that we can really leverage the technology rather than just throwing up the same information in new skins? But that also requires new business principles where we look at revenue shares with commercial industry, even though we are a nonprofit public university. And how do we also make use of some of the spin-off companies like David Rogers' Ology Company in conjunction with requirements from the military or from our U.S. government for doing things like our Federal Register, which announces new government initiatives, and making those available along with social media news feeds and image feeds that can give more context to the various applications. And these are examples of leveraging the technology and forming these public-private innovation partnerships that I think are really going to be compelling, as I see a number of you from different areas, both in academia, some from government, some from other nonprofits, and some from the commercial sector too. How do we work together is one of the biggest things that can drive forward our innovation. Do you agree with that statement? Let me know in the chat log too. Give me some ideas of whether or not that works within your context and your frame of reference. Let's start a nice back channel as we go so that we really do have some communication. And anyone that would like to talk, please feel free to raise your hand, and I'll be happy to call on you as well too and take questions as we go through. Another one of the projects and programs that really leverages the use of the mobile technology is an iPad-based game on Mini Coopers as they launched the new cars this past fall. And one of the things that was interesting is that in a team of 4 people riding in a car, you have the driver and you have 3 other people. As you pass certain points on the map, it triggers content like a video on traction control. And one of the things that we're seeing is that these videos launch and tell you about the information in the context of where you're learning it. That's really only possible on a mobile device. And those are some of the things that are really interesting to me, because that starts to take our learning in totally new directions. It also has this spirit of collaboration inside the car to work together as a team, and competition between the various dealerships that sell Mini Coopers across the U.S. and other geographies too. The iPad game is actually an internal enterprise-based game for the Mini Cooper BMW staff and teams. So this one is not publicly available. A lot of the other ones I'm going to show are publicly available too. So the Federal Registry app is available, for instance, and so is the renal physiology app that I showed a minute ago too. So yeah, I probably should have said that too. This is an enterprise app at this point. They have not released their training videos to the outside world just yet. That's why I can't actually show you the video clip that's normally running right here. Another public program in the spirit of kind of combining both mobile and games and simulations together is one called My Sports Pulse. And you can go to mysportspulse.com. So I'll post that in here too. And you can watch a couple of YouTube videos of students in a 7th grade classroom in action, learning about math and science by having sports-themed scenarios sent to their mobile phone through a number of different ways. One could be through text message. That was the most popular, of course, with that age demographic. Also through interactive voice response, which gave you over just a standard handset easy access to over the audio channel to be able to answer questions with the push of a button, even on the most basic of phones, even a desk phone you could use. So we had voice recordings from famous athletes, videos from them talking about the importance of math and science. And over a 6-week period, we saw an 11% increase in interest in math and science careers over the course of that time, which was one of the key metrics that we were measuring during that time. They got to build their own avatars and have access to virtual competition too, and win things like tickets to sporting events, and also tickets to other live events, and things like a Wii with sports games. We did think that this would be really appealing to boys. We found that it was equally appealing to young women, too, to girls. And we think that's because of the texting feature in terms of the learning. So we were really intrigued by that, too. And this was geared towards the International Baccalaureate standards. And it's still, we run the competition every spring and fall for students, thanks to some grants from Sprint and Motorola Foundation, in addition to Kauffman Foundation, who originally sponsored this. And we're using and activating some of the learning theories, like timed interval spacing, like the spacing effect, to reinforce that knowledge and interest in these sports-themed games. So I encourage some of you who are in K-12 education to go take a look at that one in particular. And this is one that's really lowest common denominator, too, because it doesn't require a specific high-end smartphone. It works on any baseline feature phone. And we know this because we tested it in places like Uganda, and we tested it in other locations, like in Sweden and in China, in the United Arab Emirates. So we had a number of different tests in a number of different geographies, too. So Skip, to answer your question just real quick, yeah, there is actually a way that you can link a Pico projector to your iPad, and it'll work with both Keynote, and it'll also work with your video playback too, but only those two outputs. The one that we recommended and used, which is by no means an endorsement of it, but it's been really good, is the Optimus. And there's a certain model, PK301, which actually has 50 lumens of brightness, so it's bright enough to project in a moderately lit room and still be okay. And that one works with a number of different devices because it has more inputs and outputs than any of the other projectors that we saw, meaning that it has an iPad out, it has an HDMI out, inputs and outputs, and also standard RCA as well as the USB connections. So that might help some of you who are looking at that too. Yeah, good thoughts on that. I want to next skip and just kind of keep moving down to through some of the different examples, because hopefully this will spur some ideas for really what is a broad range of people who are in this MobiMOOC with us. So I don't want to focus too long on any one particular area, but give you some broad-ranging ideas. We're also looking at how we integrate other areas too, like some of the social networking games that are being played, kind of Facebook-style games. Maybe some of you will chime in and share with a checkbox whether or not you have been using things like, or playing things like Mafia Wars or Farmville or some of these other social networking games. I think that there's a place for these too, because all of these games have a similar model for education, meaning that yeah, we'll send out a link through Gmail a little bit later, Tony, and we'll also have it posted on the wiki as well too. So you'll have it both ways, and there'll be a link that comes to you in Gmail or through the Gmail group. So I see a few of you are saying yes to Farmville. But even if you haven't, if you think about these as something that activates on an old principle of cognitive task analysis and job task analysis, to look at what a role is, and as you go through that role, what knowledge, skills, and abilities you gain as you go up in levels. Same thing as you have in World of Warcraft, any of these. We designed a game called Super Nutrition around that. And maybe if we have time, I'll show that a little bit later. We got a little bit late start, so I don't want to spend too much time on any one example. But you can go to supernutritiongame.com and register and play it for free yourself, too. We got a grant from Johnson & Johnson for this particular one, and we targeted this towards 9 to 12-year-olds to teach them about our FDA, which is our Food and Drug Administration in the U.S., food pyramid, and also to teach them about nutrition in general, even going beyond what the FDA food pyramid is, and looking at ways that you can link what food kids eat, what you're seeing down here, selecting foods that they would add, and then how that means that they have certain energy And that energy and wellness will allow you to complete local missions like rescuing a cat from a tree or mowing the neighbor's lawn or doing something nice for people. And those become sort of your ways of earning money and also gaining skill so that you can get into superhero school eventually. So the theme is something, hopefully attractive to 9 to 12-year-olds. And we've been using the same technique with adults as well, too, for things as serious as going from pre-med all the way up through chief of staff in a hospital. And then also looking at ways that we can leverage this with other areas and anything that has a role, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and then growing that a little further as you go up in levels or ranks. How many of you are looking at things like Second Life or other virtual worlds? Chime in on that as well for us, too. I'll clear the polls for a second so that we can see. So if you're looking at that, mobile doesn't necessarily stand alone. Mobile can connect you with other technologies, too. And I think you'll see that theme emerge as we look at the next few examples. So we have an 800-person class at University of Central Florida. We've been designing ways to link this with mobile so that you can be in Second Life and be able to communicate with people through text message, SMS, or through email back to people that are in real life and not in Second Life, and be able to do things like send gestures back and forth so that our accounting professors don't have to live in Second Life all the time. They can have a link out to their mobile device that will tell them when someone has a question or is going too deep in past what our artificial intelligence can, with our avatars that are non-player characters, can respond to inside of Second Life. And you can see some of that there too. But these natural links between mobile and virtual worlds are things we're starting to explore, as well as the way that we can help with linking between mobile and things like telepresence. For those of you who haven't seen this, it's large-scale, high-definition video teleconference work. The link to the Second Life stuff is really engaging accounting.com, or is it .org? It might be .org, but I just accidentally typed in reallyengagingaccounting.com. I think it's one or the other of those two. And you can go and see the empirical evidence of where that's been effective at actually producing a letter grade increase over the course of the term. And that letter grade is going from a high F to a low D up to a passing C. And yeah, my debit credit is the other one too. And that's Dr. Steve Hornick. So I think that mobile and telepresence are going to start to merge in new and unique ways, where the people that are in a room might leverage both their mobile technology in their hand as well as this large high-definition screen at the front of the room for virtual meetings. We've been doing things like simulations of role plays, of contract negotiations between government and industry, and how you can make those more effective using some of these technologies. Yeah, great. Thanks, Eileen. That's good information, too, on Dr. Hornick's work.